Welcome to Angel Heart Radio. I'm Annette McCoy, and with me this morning is Janet Hickox. And we're talking astrology and how it relates to life. Janet, thank you for
Yep.
joining me.
Thank you, Annette. It's always a pleasure to be here and discuss with you all of the fantastic things happening in the sky above us.
I know, isn't it incredible? Yes, just how astrology relates to our lives. And see, you know so much about it. I'm always fascinated by what you share with us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. And of course, we only need to look up at the night sky right now to see how astrology can impact us, because what we have in that sky is was a super full moon, a supermoon, meaning it was one of the bigger looking moons of the year. And a supermoon is defined by a moon that approaches within 90% of the closest it ever comes to the Earth. So a supermoon, it's not in your imagination. It really does look bigger because closer to us. And we see it as larger, but it also then is exerting more of a pressure on us on the planet. So we feel it in our tidal flows. We see it in our weather. And of course, our body being mostly made up of water, we also feel those big changes, those big moons. Right? We were talking about how people kind of go a little bit out of their minds even.
Yes. Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because I adore the moon, no matter what. I think every different phase is fascinating. It's just gorgeous. But there is something about extra special about a full moon. And of course, last night, wow. Especially as it's rising, isn't it so good? And then this morning when I went out to walk, of course, it was still in the sky. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
Very special.
It was gorgeous last night. It rose right outside my bedroom window. And at first it was hidden behind the trees. And then all of a sudden it got up above the trees. And I somehow woke up because all this light was in my room. And I realized, that's the moon. So doing its job, shining at night. And it was a clear night, so we got to really see a beautiful moon. And of course, this moon, starting out the month of August, sort of sets the tone for the whole entire month. And it was a full moon in the sign of Aquarius. So it has a sort of edge to it, if you will. So for some people, that might have meant more tension, maybe more nervousness or anxiety associated with the moon. They wouldn't have maybe known exactly that it was because of the moon, but certainly its impact was there. And in Aquarius, we get the opportunity to see things differently, to behave differently, to maybe relieve ourselves of some of the pressure and of the stressors that we have been under. So all in all, with Leo on the other side with the sun, we can maybe see a pathway through which we can follow our hearts ever more closely.
Beautiful. That all sounds, that's good news, isn't it?
It is definitely good news, and it isn't the only full moon we have this month. This month we also have a rare blue moon, meaning the second full moon of the month. Now for us, that's going to be on the 30th. I suspect for you it'll be the 31st, but still a blue moon as it is the second moon of the month of August.
Right. Okay. Now this year we don't have as many blue moons. Last year there seemed to be at least 2 or 3, I thought.
Yeah, let's see. I don't remember last year because that was last year.
Yes, I know. For some reason it just resonated. Yes.
I want to say that this is the last blue moon until 2025. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So a couple of years between time. And
Right.
that just makes it a little more special. It doesn't really change the fundamental meaning of the moon, but it does. You know, Annette, the moon is so interesting to me because, well, because it's right there and we see it just about every night.
Yeah.
But because it actually, in its transit around the Earth, gives us access to different energies at different times. So, for example, a new moon being the beginning of the cycle gives us an opportunity to start something new, or to at least wrap our consciousness around the idea of moving forward with an intention in some new way. So but we're in the dark at that point in time. We don't see, right? Because the moon is new. It's dark. It's the dark part of the cycle. So we don't see clearly ahead, but we can set some intentions for how we want to go or what we want to create. And then we come to the first quarter moon, and the first quarter moon offers up a challenge to us. Like if you really want that thing, or you really want to go do that particular thing, there's this crisis of action we come up against in that first quarter. Like, what do we do? I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what direction to go. So it gives us opportunities to take new action, right? New action is always required. Otherwise, you just keep getting the same results, right, that you've always gotten. And then we come to the full moon, which the full moon is, to me, also a sort of new energy in that now we have the light with us. So now we might be able to see what we need to let go of or what we need to complete before we can actually get to the intention that we set with the new moon. So there's more light available. We can have a sort of revelation moment, an aha, epiphany kind of, oh, that's what I'll need to do in order to get to where I wanted to go. And then we get to the next quarter, called the second quarter moon. And now we have a crisis of consciousness comes up, right? We have an idea of what we wanted to create or what our intention to manifest something was. Then we went through the first crisis about like, what do I do to get there? Then we had some aha revelation about what we might need to let go of or complete first. And now we recognize at the second quarter that we might have some shifting we have to do on the inner planes if we want to get to where we want to go. Like maybe I have a belief or I have some old pattern that I'm stuck in, and it gives us that opportunity to shift that thinking or that pattern, that to raise more consciousness within us. And then we get back to the new moon and we start the whole process over again. So the moon is really about the light from the internal. It's our inner light, our inner self shining outward, right? That sometimes is lost in the glare of the sun. And the different moon cycles give us access then to being more inner focused.
Okay. So this is a time, now that's every month, isn't it?
Every month. And then if you add the icing on it, so to speak, would be like, well, what sign is the moon in? And how is that moon impacting my own personal chart? Because everybody has Aquarius somewhere in their chart. And if you look at the house that Aquarius is in your personal chart, that's going to tell you the area of your life where things can be up for change, or where maybe you're being liberated in some way. It depends, of course, on how you want to look at it for yourself. Am I being liberated or am I being shaken awake? That type of thing, because Aquarius is a sign ruled by Uranus in the modern astrology, also Saturn in more traditional astrology. So we have two titans, right? Uranus and Kronos, or Saturn. They were considered titans in mythology. And what did the titans do? They fought with one another. Saturn, the titan that represents our connection to the past, to our duty and responsibility, our accountability, and Uranus, who is the ruler of everything new, rebellion, liberation, freedom, using our free will. And so we have, and moving toward the future. So we have a battle that we're caught between here, between the past and the future. So really we could say, well, what is going on in our present moment that would shape our future? That's also something coming up from the past. We're, at a crossroads, if you will, between past and future.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm always fascinated, Janet, because you are a wealth of information and it simply flows.
Well, interestingly enough, when you sort of understand the planet and what it represents, then it's just a matter of applying it to the different signs. And then, eventually you kind of understand the whole round of energies that are going on. And then you can start to learn more, like how do those planets interact with one another in terms of relationship? Are they squabbling with one another? Are they getting along? Are they exhilarated to be together? Or are they absolutely back to back, not even looking at one another kind of energies? And that's how you really begin to learn more about how astrology works. It's the basics first, and then add some, pieces as you go along. I mean, it is mysterious, but it's not, if you get some basics in, it's not all that mysterious. It's still mysterious, no matter how you look at it. It's spiritual, right? It has a whole host of different energies that we can learn about, though, and then we can apply those to our lives. And that's the importance. That's why we do what we do every month, is I come here to tell people about what's potential for the month ahead so that you're aware. Awareness is half the thing.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because if we're aware, no matter what we're talking about, then we're able to act on it. Whereas if we're not aware, then we're in the dark.
Yeah. And this moon, and if we look at this moon cycle through human design, which is always another way for us to get some understanding about the transit, we see that this one is the sun in a gate about retelling of the narratives of our lives. Are we continually retelling the tale of woe, or have we elevated our stories in the retelling to see a path toward empowering ourselves and others through our experiences? And then the moon is in the gate called attunement. And it's a very sensitive place. So a lot of people yesterday, and I would bet you even today, are feeling very raw, very sensitive, emotionally sensitive. They may be sensitive to sort of the unseen realm, maybe more dreams, more feelings of disconnectedness when they wake up in the morning, like, whoa, where have I been? But it's also about belonging and finding connection to one another on the planet. And so the whole of this is really about telling a story about our common humanity, and not so much about the experience of, well, whatever it is that's happened in your race, in your country, in your community, in your family. It's not that we don't want to tell the story, but in the retelling of the story, what happens is we bring up all that old emotion, and we're not really empowering ourselves to see how the story or the event has caused us to evolve or grow. So this is our opportunity then to look at everything that's gone on in our lives, especially, in the last few months, and be able to elevate it. Like, how do I want to portray the fact that XYZ happened? Right? I could keep telling it as the sad tale, but how does that help empower others? right? It's
Or
really more of
even
the sympathy vote.
right. Or even ourselves. If we're retelling something all the time, well, then we can become stuck. I read once where it was suggested that we retell a story 3 times and then change the channel, because if we're constantly we become stuck, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yep. And you just keep reliving the pain. You keep
Mm,
reliving the wound. You keep reliving the anger or whatever was triggered by it. Now, if it's a
mhm.
joyful tale, that's a different story, right?
Yes.
Because that's of an empowering nature. But if you keep promoting the victimy stories, then you stay tied to that victimy story, right? And the victiminess goes on into other areas of your life. It doesn't just stay in that one
Mm,
event.
mm,
And really, this was an opportunity to see things from a higher perspective, right? To really be able to adjust your intentions to keep a pace with the new you, with the retold story of who you are, as opposed to staying stuck in the old. And that
mm.
really comes from the Pleiadian Earth astrology, where we have been in what is called the collective um, shadow period. So it's like all of our fears have been coming up, all of our shadow energies have been up in our faces collectively, but also in our individual selves. So we're we're not pulling out of that until August 6th. Actually,
Uh-huh.
August 7th will be the first day that we are out of that collective shadow period. And of course, that started the third week in July. So we've been living some trying times individually, but also especially collectively.
Mm, mhm.
So move toward your highest good. Find goals that help you, move forward. Um, Act as a visionary, right? Re-envision your life and what's possible. Don't get stuck in the old stories. But
Yes.
that's just one moon. The moon, which was, of course, yesterday, the 1st of August, but really impacts us up until we get to the next new moon. So it gives us some opportunities to really, digest some of this idea of being responsible for the story that you're telling, both yourself and others. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, the next big thing for August comes on Sunday, the 6th, my Sunday, your Monday, the 6th, whenever your 6th is.
Right.
And it's the
Sunday.
day that, will that be your Sunday?
Yeah. So we have the same dates, except my today is your tomorrow.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah, I know, it's really like it's crazy.
It just, I always feel like when I come to your show, I feel like I'm time traveling into the future. And
Yeah.
then when I'm done, I time travel back to the past. None of which doesn't make it fun. It's just, oh, wait, I'm back here on West Coast time now. Oh, Lord. Anyway, so Sunday, the 6th,
Right.
is a day where the sun comes into a challenging aspect with planet Jupiter. And to me, and the sun at this point is in Leo and Jupiter is in Taurus. Both of these signs are what we call in astrology fixed signs, which means they have a tendency to stay the course, to be solid and stable, to even in the more extreme get into a rut, be unable to make change or to move forward. So we're going to really have to look at in the square, which just means these two are challenging one another. The relationship is one of challenge. Neither one particularly wants to move or make change happen in their relationship. So it takes us a little bit more energy to make change happen. And this would be about adopting a future orientation that is based on your heart, based on what you love, based on what you desire, as opposed to thinking that you always have to do things that other people want you to do. or being something that you don't really want to do, or being somebody that you don't really want to be. So it's a huge opportunity for us to use that energy kind of like an engine to really put forward our dreams and our desires, while doing it in a way that says, okay, I'm ready to let go of the past. I'm ready to
Mhm.
let go of where I've been stuck. I'm as courageous as the lion, and I can do this in a very simple way. Just takes one step in front of the other, right? One foot in front of the other. So that's our Sunday. And as we go through that week on August 9th, we have quite a number of little aspects going on. The moon will actually be changing into the sign of Gemini. And at that point, Mercury, the ruling planet of Gemini, will be in a trine to Jupiter. So the sun earlier was in a square, kind of challenging us to get on path, get on track, do something new, take
Mhm.
action. Then Mercury will come along and sort of smooth the way for those thoughts to be creative, right? To be able to, be in that mode of creation. And that same day, Venus comes into a square with Uranus. Yowza, right? That can be inspiring in our relationships, in our finances. It can be problematic because Venus is now in retrograde motion, meaning she's in that more internalized focus. So Venus, that rules our money, finances, the economy, and our relationships, our self-worth, and our value. When she's turned inward or turned retrograde, then we have an opportunity to work through some of the issues that are in that part of our lives, but not necessarily to take new steps forward. So we might see a drawing back of the economy. And I'm thinking I'm already seeing those kinds of signs, right? Today, the stock market plunged here. I don't know if it ended the day that way because I can't tell right now. Yeah, it doesn't tell me right now what the stock market ended at, but it feels to me like there's more to the economy than what seemed to be uh, like there's something else working in behind the scenes in the economy, because we still have inflation and people are still buying.
Mm. Mhm.
What's driving this? Is it Jupiter and Taurus, right? A Venus ruled sign. And it's possible. And where does that end then? Where does that bubble burst, if you will? And then what happens? So it's an interesting time. And what I would say for everybody out there is it's a great time to do a reevaluation of your financial picture, right? Look at your bottom line, look at your debt to income ratios, and see what you can do to simplify or slim it down, or be prepared for the eventual next economic downturn or hit, because they always come, right? They're cyclical. Get financially healthy, but also look at your relationships. Get your relationships healthy. Look at your self-worth and your value, the way that you value yourself. Am I valuing myself here, or am I letting myself just suffer down here? Right. So
Mhm.
lots of opportunities for that. And with Venus in that challenge to Uranus, then we might have some upsetting news. There may be some aha moment that happens between you and another person you're in relationship with. It could be money coming in that you didn't expect, right? It can be all that, but it could also be an unexpected bill, right? Or something you didn't see coming there. So the
Well,
ninth
can
kind
I
of
just
comes
interrupt,
half and half.
Janet? Because Stephanie Coy has joined us and she said, "Good morning. I literally just had a call from the bank." Divine timing.
Hope it was good news from the bank.
Yeah.
Divine timing, it's what it all is. So at any rate, it could be good messages coming in, but the message might actually be it's time to get financially fit, or it's time to rearrange things so that you're not over extended in terms of money. And then on the 13th, which is a Sunday, We
Mhm.
have Venus coming into a conjunction with the sun, kind of signaling the halfway point of her retrograde and giving us a check-in, if you will, with the light of our universe, the light of our personalities with the sun. Another good indication with Venus retrograde for you to really get some clarity about what your real worth is. And are you someone who sees your worth in what you do or how much you can do rather than who you are or who you be, right, in any situation? Um, that could be good news financially that day as well, although the financial markets are all closed on Sundays, but we have time before an aspect, the time of the aspect, and a little bit of time after the aspect where these things can happen. And then on the 15th, the sun comes into a square with Uranus. I find that to be a time of inspiration, of that very powerful aha moment, like, I know what I need to do now. I know where I'm going now. And followed by the new moon on the 16th of August. And that new moon in Leo, with Mars and Uranus having a kind of fellowship time where the action and the inspiration are locked hand in hand for you to start something new, right? Something of a heart's desire kind of energy, right? That's what Leo is all about, doing what you love, being in love and being creative and self-expressive, all great Leo energies. Now, that same week, though, I was talking about human design and I kind of got sidetracked here. In our human design that week, the week of the new moon, we are sitting at the sun at the gate 4 with Earth at the gate 49. That has a revolutionary feel to it. And it might be a revolution of the mind, right? Getting out of our mental anxiety. It might be looking more at possibilities and not just at what is. What more is possible? What else could we do? How else could we solve these problems? What might we do if we came together in the service of solving a problem, right? I don't think there's anything we can't do when we come together to do it.
Absolutely.
That
Totally
seems to be the
agreed.
week for that. Yeah. Now, this is also a month where we have Mercury going retrograde, our favorite fair weather
Yeah.
friend.
When you mentioned Mercury before, I went,
Yeah, he's not retrograde yet. He does not retrograde, but he's in the shadow starting on the 6th of the month. So we'll start to already feel the effects of that. And he's retrograde in Virgo because he'll be in the sign of Virgo. He's in the sign of Virgo now. And he'll be moving backwards between 21 degrees Virgo and 8 degrees of Virgo. So wherever you have that in your own chart is where things might turn upside down or inside out. Virgo is a sign that rules perfection and the getting down to business, the organizing and so forth. So maybe it'll be a good Mercury retrograde to reorganize some facet of your life, to maybe address health and healing, because Virgo is really good with that kind of energy, to see what path of service you might want to move down as time goes on. So Mercury retrograde, not necessarily a tough one this time. I mean, he does rule the sign of Virgo as well as Gemini. So for him, in his transit this time, it doesn't seem to be as bad as it could be, right? You still have to watch out for the usuals, right? Signing contracts, going places, committing yourself to, projects. Make sure you do it with your full mind and not just, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then that falls through the cracks and now you're suffering from lack of integrity or something to that effect. So Mercury retrograde. And he's retrograding on the same day that the sun moves into Virgo. So we have the two, closely linked planets, the sun and Mercury, both moving, well, Mercury already in Virgo, but turning retrograde, and the sun entering Virgo. So it does seem to be like a signal to all of us to become more analytical or more critically thinking about things. The one problem, though, with Mercury retrograde in Virgo and the sun moving into Virgo is a tendency to overthink, to overanalyze, and that can create mental stress for us. So we want to watch that we don't get so caught up in perfecting and judging ourselves and perfecting some more that we end up in mental anxiety, right? That no bueno, no good, right? That's not good. It just causes us to shut down or to make mistakes, right? The things anxiety can cause, not to mention the impact on our health in the physical body. It's not just that mental anxiety stays up there in the mind, it's the impact it also has on your physical body. Virgo rules the physical world. Now, the day after the sun moves into Virgo, Mars and Pluto come together. They come together in a positive relationship, so they're flowing nicely with one another. But here's the thing, Pluto is in Capricorn at that time, and Mars is in Virgo at that time. And it has a sort of warmongering feel to it, a military feel to it, especially Pluto in Capricorn. And it makes me, wonder about different things that are going on, say, between Russia and Ukraine, and with NATO and all the powers that, seem to be moving pieces on the chessboard, but not really coming to any solutions. Is it possible a solution becomes apparent? That would be swell. Not sure exactly what that day will bring, but that day is on the 24th of the month. So just after the crisis moon, right, the first crisis of action. So it's possible that the day doesn't quite go the way that we would hope, but it doesn't have to be all bad, right? Maybe some kind of meeting of the minds can take place. I don't know, right? Anymore, it's expect the unexpected. That's probably the best way we can look at things.
And that can
Now,
be fun.
It can be exciting.
Yeah.
It can also be kind of upsetting for some people who don't go with the flow very well, right? Sometimes people they know what to expect and they like that. And when things like, a bad storm happens when they're meant to be doing something outside, they can get, disturbed by that. Their peace is disturbed. Mars and Pluto can be disturbers of the peace. But they can also work really well together to get something done. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, the last week of the month is one with a lot of energy attached to it. It's not like the other weeks in the month didn't have energy attached to them. They had their own brand of energetic signatures. But on the last week of the month, we start out with, on the 27th, Mars moving into Libra. And he is not happy in Libra. Nope. His rulership is on the other side, Aries. So he's in his fall, we say, in Libra. Libra waffles or is indecisive, and Mars requires decisive action, right? So he gets a little weird in Libra, where Libra wants to take their time and see all sides of something and then choose. So we may feel a little at odds within ourselves as Mars makes that transit into Libra. That same day, the sun is opposing Saturn, and that makes that day a little more difficult. Like our light is dimmed in some way, like there's heavy responsibility that day in some way. So it might be at least that the beginning of that last week of the month may not feel so great, might not be so happy feeling, but it might be a time where we can really get some things done, right? Where we can really put our, what is that saying? Nose to the grindstone and
Sure.
forward with something. The very next day, Uranus turns retrograde. Now, Uranus is a contrarian and rebel at the best of times. And now you turn him inward and he starts to blow fuses inward, right? So inside of you, which can become volatility in the outer world. So if we're all dealing with Uranus issues on the inner planes, that can make it so seem like we're all ready to explode, or we might feel like we're ready to explode. There's uncertainty with this placement. He's in Taurus, so it might upset the financial markets, right? He's in the financial sign. He's in the sign of banking and the economy. And, right now it's just kind of come see, come saw, right? Some days it looks like we're going to pull ahead. Other days it seems like everything's going backwards. With Uranus turning retrograde, backwards is the name of the game. So we may be seeing a slide toward more inflation. We might be seeing a slide back toward money crunch times, right? I hate to be the bearer of that kind of news, but he's only in retrograde until February, so it's not forever. And then we have that rare blue moon, full moon, super moon on the 30th, which is a banner day. That full moon will be in the sign of Pisces. And that means that Saturn is going to be involved in that moon. And in fact, Saturn and the moon are in a conjunction at the rare blue moon on the 30th of the month. And, Saturn and the moon makes us emotional. It can make us feel disenfranchised, depressed, feels, not being depressed, but feeling depressed, feeling melancholy. But it can also give us opportunity to focus on what's real, right? What's right in front of us. The first step in moving forward is to take that first step. And the sun coming into that, or the moon and the planet Saturn coming into that conjunction can do that. And on the other side, of course, of that is the sun in an opposition to the Saturn moon conjunction. So a little bit testy, I think, right? Not an easy, beautiful, let's just put our stamp of approval on this moon. It has a little bit of a feeling of melancholy for some reason, like maybe we're mourning something, or a recognition perhaps that the past is gone and that we actually have to step forward. There's a lot of different things that it could be. I don't think it's horrible. I just feel like it's not a feel-good moon. It might look pretty in the sky though. So there's that, right? Look at how beautiful that might be. But it is a super moon too, so the tides are higher, and that is impacting our human emotion and our human way of doing things. So things might be over the top, right? That might be overly emotional about something. Emotionally reactive versus emotionally responsive. So it could be an interesting time, not necessarily a great time, and not necessarily a horrible time. Middle of the road. Meh, right? Just kind of not much there. That same day, though, the nodes we should talk about the nodes, because the nodes are related to the moon. And the nodes, right, they're where the moon's most northern crossing crosses the Earth's ecliptic plane, and where the southernmost crossing is. And that tends to be then our destiny through the North Node, and our karma, if you will, or our past through the South Node. And they've recently made a crossing out of Taurus and Scorpio, where they've been for 18 months, into the signs of Aries and Libra. Remember, they back into a sign. So they come in at the 29th degree, not the 0 degree. And then they move backwards through everything. So at that point in time, that Aries Libra energy is also highlighted in our charts as a way to show us the key truth about ourselves, our individuality, who we are, what we want as an individual, and how we apply that to our identity and really live out the truth of who we are as individuals, versus the opposite end in Libra, which has been sort of people pleasing, or doing what you thought made other people happy, or saying not what you really mean, just saying what you think others want to hear. So that being, part of this last moon of the month can also, build up the pressure for us to really live in our truths. And
Sure.
some people do that better than others, right? Some
True.
people live in the I have to,
Yeah.
instead of the I want to, right? So now when we look at the nodes again, hold on, I'm talking too much. When we look at the nodes now in human design, they're going to be shifting into new gates, and they're moving into the gate of celebration and the gate of success. But I think what's being rewired here is our definition of success. What does it mean to be successful? Is it making a ton of money? Is it owning the house, the big house, and having all the cars and all the toys? Or is there something else that constitutes success for us? And then on the other hand, because we're also looking at success, we'll also have to be looking at failure. What hasn't been working out? What causes us to feel like we're not successful? It is an energy that in human design ends up on the spleen center, which is about survival. So are we merely surviving, or are we thriving? And what's the difference, right? How do we make that difference feel like we're really empowered to live and thrive, and not just merely survive? And then the north node, what direction are we moving in? We're moving into some form of completion, which is a cause for celebration. So that's a 3-month period of time where these nodes sit at these two gates. So it brings us this new energy of being able to complete something, but also to align ourselves more completely with success, but success of a different kind. Like, what does it mean to you to be successful? And that might be unique to each person, right? It could be a different, definition for each person. Yeah, I don't know. That begins on the same week that the Earth is sitting at the gate 55, the gate of abundance. And, I think we also have to adopt a new definition of abundance, right? Is abundance really about who has the most money? And I don't begrudge billionaires, but how much money do you need to be happy or to have everything you want? And I don't know what the answer to that is, right? It seems like there's a lot of focus in this planet in money, and that breeds greed, and that leaves a lot of people struggling still to be able to take care of their basic needs. And I don't know, could billionaires decide to give away more money? I don't know, but it's a possibility, because we're reworking our definitions of success. And if that saying, we're only as strong as our weakest links.
Sure.
Right. So what does that mean in the context of the world that we live in, where there are so many that have so much and so many more that don't have anything? And how do we, work that? That's going to be sort of the dilemma of the Aquarian age, is how do we level the playing field somewhat? How do we make sure that everybody has everything that they need, which is why we hear things like universal health care, universal income. Those are going to be things that we take up as humanity, especially once Pluto moves back into Aquarius to stay. So it's a theme that, we'll deal with in some way, over the next 3 months as well, right? And there's also the emotional piece here, because the 55, that same week, the gate 55 becomes the gate of abundance, becomes where the earth is. That is also emotional energy, and it concerns enoughness. What is the definition of enoughness?
Enough.
Am I good enough? Do I have enough? Am I enough?
Mm.
Mm,
That's
a
a
big
big
question.
question for some.
Yeah, it's a big question. And that gate happens to be paired with the sun at the gate 59, which is a gate of productivity and resources, and the distribution of said resources, which include money or food or oil or housing or the things that we need to survive, water and such. So it could be a really interesting week of dichotomies where we see, this horrendous amount of money that some people have versus the horrendous lack of money
Mm.
and survival that other people have. What do we do about that? How do we try to bring that into more equanimity? Not
Mm.
to, and I don't say that in a way to take away anything from the people who've done the work to build their empire, kind of thing. But I don't know. So much in this world is focused on money and how much money you have and how that sets you apart from the laws, from the natural order of the way things work. And leveling that playing field might just be a cause for celebration as time goes on. Leveling it, not taking away their toys or their money, but maybe having an internal wake up call, like
Right.
Scrooge, right? Scrooge in the movie,
Mm. Yes. What
can't
is
remember the
that?
name of that movie.
Yes, I know. Isn't it?
But
Yes.
is it Miracle on 34th? No, it's not the Miracle on 34th Street. Whatever. You guys know who Scrooge is. So Scrooge
Christmas
had a
Carol.
Christmas
Stephanie has just told.
Carol. Thank you,
Thank you,
Stephanie. Oh my
Stephanie.
God. But Scrooge had a comeuppance, right? He had a very powerful spiritual experience, and it woke him up in a very profound way.
Mm-hmm.
See one of those coming for those people on the planet who are based in greed, who use their money as weapons or use their money to take more away from people instead of giving back to people or giving back to the planet, not just people, but the planet, right? A lot of the climate conversation is about how we have utilized the Earth's resources in a way that is killing her. Annette, are you frozen? If you can hear me, Annette, you're frozen. Or maybe I'm frozen. Although I see myself moving. But Annette seems to be frozen. Are we still live? Do you still see me? So while Annette is away, and when she comes back in, we'll bring her back into the conversation. Unfortunately, I can't see questions. So if you have questions, I don't see those. So I also wanted to remind everybody that on this particular set of weeks, we have the Earth and the Sun coming into gates that really tell us about saying yes to the right things, about what we're committed to. And that's August 18th through the 23rd. And the energy of yes, right? Saying yes, though, requires us to know that we can, if we're saying yes, we're saying, I agree or I'm committed. So making sure that we are committed to what it is that we are saying yes to. Otherwise, we get involved with things and we're only half-heartedly engaged. This is Annette calling me. Hello. Hi, Annette. What happened?
Seems that no, you're hurt. Well, if you froze, and then all of a sudden, I lost everything.
Yeah.
And then that rain comes. Sorry for really rough into it, I'm sure.
Well, on my screen, it still shows that we're live. You might go to Facebook and see if we're still live because I was just carrying on talking.
Okay. Oh, because the camera here.
Uh-huh. Can you go to Facebook and see if we're still live?
Oh, hold on. Ah, that'd be hilarious.
Right now, it just, I'm the only one on the screen. But of course, I'm at a disadvantage because if people are asking questions. Yeah.
Oh, I think the internet's gone down here.
Oh. Okay. Well, then I think what I'll do, I did.
Close it.
Yep, I'm just going to close this out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you want to know more about astrology, you can go to www.living-astrology.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. Annette and I will be back together on September 6th, where we'll talk about the change of the seasons and what we might expect. Take care, everybody. Much love.